the Highlander Priest and Jade Druid combination. He's just playing a straight-up control lineup, which a lot of people failed with at the playoffs, and yet he's excelling with.
Well, it is time for game number 1 of this quarterfinal. Pavel playing his Shaman, Hunterace on that Highlander Priest. This is actually a matchup we haven't seen a ton so far, but I believe when we have, typically the Priest has tended to come out on top.
Yeah, the Priest has been able to outlast a lot of the Shaman's threats. Shaman, we were actually discussing this in the car this morning on the way over to the studio. It feels like Shaman these days can run out of gas so easily because of the nature of how some cards like Thrall Deathseer come in and decisively all-ins onto the board, compared to when you used to have cards like Stonehill Defender, which could extend your range a lot more and play a lot of a slower game, threatening Bloodlust every turn.
Well, Hunterace has a pretty powerful opening hand with a Kazakus, one of the obviously key cards in the deck. Pavel, though, he has Aya and Doppelgangster, 2 of the more resilient or more difficult to deal with minions in his deck, though no Thrall or Evolve to go with them just yet.
Well, the key for the Shaman is to not only just dodge the board clears, but also just to put a lot of pressure and force awkward removal from the Priest. But the Priest with Highlander has so many useful tools at their disposal because of what they usually do. Very similar to how Reno Jackson and Reno Mage used to be.
Always going to take the Galactic Crawler off the board with the Jade Claws. Hunterace, most of these early turns probably not going to be looking to do too much, but Kazakus next turn will certainly give him a lot to work with.
Yeah, Kazakus a big source of that area of effect, and again, Priest doesn't have to win through its normal means of bursting by setting up the Shadow Reader, Anduin, and Raza combination to do 20 damage in a turn. They can usually fight card for card against a Shaman and outlast them with really strong stuff. If you look at the top end for Hunterace, he doesn't have the Prophet Valen stuff that we've seen out of Pavel, so he's not as greedy of a list, but it's still good enough to outlast this mid-range token Shaman. But one thing that is really useful, though, is Pavel has Aya Blackpaw, and one of the things that we don't really talk about with Evolved Shaman is just the power of being able to set up just resilient minions like Aya Blackpaw and Jades. And so if he's able to get a decent amount of Jades going with the Jade Claws, the Aya Blackpaw, and the Jade Lightning, that might help accelerate to a win.
All right, so it is a 5-mana potion. The first options do not include AoE, which is often what you are going for. Second, no AoE either. So I imagine the first, it looked like he may well have picked the 5/5 Demon. This one, I imagine it's very likely he would pick deal 5 damage. Just trying to get some tempo and removal for key cards like that Mana Tide, which Pavel has on board. Will just keep giving him advantage turn after turn if he doesn't remove it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Shaman doesn't have that much good card draw anymore. Like we said, taking out Stonehill Defender just gives them less resources to play with. So Mana Tide Totem is a very important card for Shaman to protect. And without Priest having access to Shadow or Paint it or silence it, you might have to just use Heart of Fire to kill it, unless you're comfortable leaving up that Mana Tide Totem so you can do sneakier stuff like Cabal Shadow Priest later on. That's still a few turns away.
Hatches picked up for Pavel, not the best, but not too bad either here. He's going to just use his turn here to develop a little bit more to the board, making it a little bit more awkward for Hunterace to deal with. And here, he's just riding the Mana Tide Totem. As you mentioned, the resource battle here can be very important.
Yeah.
If the Priest doesn't find the removal spells like the AoE, he knows that Pavel just played, or rather Hunterace just played the Kazakus. If he did play into a Kazakus potion for the AoE, he would just lose anything else he developed on the board as well. So just going to kind of take things slow. And yeah, it's just a board development for Hunterace here.
Yeah, I think Hunterace has conceded that he can't really spend a lot of resources just to try to remove his Mana Tide, but that's going to give Pavel a lot of resources to fight with, and it's not going to be a fatigue issue at all. Pavel just needs to make sure that he can fight inefficiently as long as he wins tempo.
All right, well, Hunterace has left this Mana Tide up. It's drawn a lot of cards, but he does have Cabal Shadow Priest now to bring it over to his side if he wants. He also has Spirit Lash with Blood Mage Thalnos, which has to be at least somewhat attractive here. That's something that's going to continue to have value against most of the boards that the Shaman can have, though. And you're not going to do all that much better than a Mana Tide for your Cabal Shadow Priest here. And now, Hunterace picking up some cards.
Yep, and Pavel was initially looking at the Aya Blackpaw setup for a while here, and it still looks like to be one of the better ones, considering that summons a 3/3 and a 4/4 Jade, assuming it dies. But now that he has Doppelgangster and Evolve, let's see what comes out the other end. The Savannah High Mane. Wow, that is definitely one of the best outcomes you can ask for in a 6-mana minion. Having Death Rattle is going to be really hard for Hunterace to get through, but he does have some powerful combinations with the Shadow Word Death, and you mentioned it before, the Blood Mage Thanos and the Spirit Lash.
Yeah, I mean, the Shadow Word Death plus Thalnos Spirit Lash could clear off most of the board, but it still doesn't quite hit everything.
Right. That's true. Yeah, because the 3 health on the right side of the board is so annoying to deal with. You need it to be a very clean 2.
He could attack his 2 minions on the right side of the board into the larger minions on the left side of the board. But yeah, those the Toxic Sewer Ooze and the Bloodsail Cultist would still survive if you were to go for that play. Holy Nova gives him some more AoE clear, which can be pretty important. But Hunterace now has to be afraid of just Bloodlust. You know, if he does leave a board this big up, it's got to be really in the back of his mind that he could just immediately die.
Right. Really taking his time to try and efficiently clear as much as possible. And he's going to take out pretty much every threat except for the High Mage.
Yeah, so this is paying respect to Bloodlust, to the fact that Pavel's deck has ways to make use of having multiple minions. He'd rather leave the one powerful minion on the board rather than a number of smaller minions for fear of Bloodlust or Flame Tongue Totem.
But that's still okay, I think, in Pavel's mind, because he didn't even have the Bloodlust. Because that what he's going to try to do is set up more for the board again and force Hunterace to have the Dragonfire Potion or the big Holy Nova swings.
And Pavel still has a pretty solid reload. He has Aya as well, and he's actually played 2 other Jade cards. Aya's already making a 3/3. And he, thanks to that Mana Tide Totem, he has a lot of resources in total to work with. Hunterace without a real good full board clear here. He does have the Spirit Lash, Holy Nova, and the Blood Mage Thanos now. He's a little bit far away from being able to cast all of them in a turn.
Right.
So a board that gets big here now could still be difficult for him to deal with.
Yeah, the primary way that the priest can deal with it is a lot of shenanigans through silence, as well as things like Pint-Sized Potion plus a Cabal Shadow Priest. But with that Shadow Priest already been used, Pavel might be worried about maybe Shadow Word Horror or a couple other combinations with that. But even so, his Death House will summon a handful of minions.
Yeah, this allows Pavel to get up a pretty resilient board. Even if there were big AoE from Hunterace, he'd be left with a 4/4 and 2/2s. Although there is, of course, the Kazakhs that can attack into one of them. So Hunterace would be able to choose which one he wanted to leave around.
Is there a clear available if he uses, say, Spirit Lash with the Holy Nova this turn? I think it'd be a little bit off. Unless he starts putting a little more trickery into it. But even so, he's also using a lot of his resources. He's using 2 forms of area effect to just deal with effectively 2.5 cards.
Yeah, and Pavel still has a handful. So one of the things about this matchup, specifically because of Thrall, even just leaving up a medium-sized board against either Thrall or Bloodlust, frankly, can just be terrifying. You end up in a position where you leave up just a couple minions and suddenly become a serious problem for you. And yeah, Hunterace is going to use the Holy Nova, not going to clear the board, but going to at least take it down a notch, so any Bloodlust or Evolve type effect won't be as powerful.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this at the very beginning of the game. Shaman, if they're able to get that resources, they can really pressure the priest and use their resources inefficiently. And this is a mark of a player that really understands kind of what Shaman really wants to do. Not going to overextend. People see that Jade Claws, they think, wow, I'm going to summon 5/5 this turn. I can even play, a cheap thing from below. But he's just trying to space his threats, put Priest in an awkward position where they have to Dragonfire Potion or use Spirit Lash or other combination of cards very inefficiently.
I mean, even just thinking back to the early turns, Pavel chose to coin out his Mana Tide Totem when he was overloaded on turn 3 rather than just play a Primal Fin. He recognized drawing cards is the most important thing I can do. Putting the priest in a situation where I can keep up with them in resources or exceed them in resources is very, very powerful, and that's what's happened this game. Well, which one of these is in your deck? Always funny with the revealed deck list. I think I know.
Yeah, Bloodlust, of course, this is an important distinction to note that Curious Glimmerroot can be in the deck, period. It's not something that he hasn't drawn yet. Some people interpret it like Draconode Operative, where it's like something he hasn't drawn. That Bloodlust could be in Pavel's hand.
All right, Flame Tongue definitely makes this board scarier. Oof. And Devolve can mean he can get past this taunt and deny a card from that Curious Glimmerroot.
Christian Oracle.
Oh, that's what I meant. The other one's a Glimmerroot.
I knew
but there's a taunt anyway.
taunt anyways, but not that big of a deal, considering that Pavel gets to keep his mana tide totem. And once again, almost basically reset. All the Shaman really wants to do from this position is play kind of like the old days of mid-range Shaman, which is just hero power and slightly extend and make your opponent feel really uncomfortable, when there really is not much substance to this board. They're all effectively token minions plus the totem, the Flame Tongue totem.
Yeah, and the threat here, though, of the Thrall and the Bloodlust means that if Hunterace does find an AoE, not only is he feeling like he needs to use it because of, well, there's a reasonable pressure on the board, but the threat of the enormous upgrade to the minions, as well as obviously just the massive burst damage of Bloodlust, means that any board that's reasonably wide needs to be cleared immediately.
I think Pavel's counting damage if his opponent had Spirit Lash to clear a little bit.
There's Bloodlust.
And I think he just wants to get the extra damage in case he needed it. Hunterace picks up Shadow Visions, needs that Dragonfire Potion.
Does not find it. Yeah, Shadowed Pain, Silence, those are great toolbox cards in the right circumstance, but when your opponent has a board this big and has a Bloodlust in hand, they're not going to cut it.
He had this or, he had this or Shadowed Horror, Dragonfire Potion. So he had two ways he could have gotten it, but, that's, again, one of the unfortunate downsides of playing such a large amount of cheap spells in a singleton deck to try to get Shadow Reaper into it. And sometimes you don't hit the right side of it, and that's a punish on the deck building process of it, but you can't really account for that when you're playing against Token Shaman. You just have to hope that you're able to budget your removal correctly, and in this case, Pavel has just too much.
Yeah, this board is looking like there's just not enough that Hunterace can do to whittle it down. He needs to take out as much as he can so that Bloodlust is not lethal. Spirit Lash removes two things. Pain can remove one more.
Right. Could have healed for a little bit by playing Priest of the Feast as well, but looks like he's just going to play it very slow and hope that his opponent can't kill him. 10 plus the 12 is 22, plus the attack is 24.
He also has patches in hand. He can't quite play the second Bloodlust. I think he actually has 27 here with the patches from hand.
Okay.
If our math is correct. So there's 15 from Bloodlust, 27 total damage available to Pavel here if he just plays patches and Bloodlust and send everything to the face. Kind of funny, the overload keeping him off of just double Bloodlust here.
I mean, it looks like it doesn't stop him at all from getting the damage in. It's still a lot of damage coming in and putting the Priest basically to no health here. 28 damage.
Math did not check out.
Math did not check out, but it's close enough. And what most important is that it just threatens Hunterace
he just didn't use his,
to just fall.
Oh, and there's Thrall too. So not only is there the threat of the Bloodlust bursting Hunterace down, but if Pavel just gets some small minions on the board, he can immediately upgrade them with that Thrall. I mean, that thing from below immediately becomes an 8-drop.
Yeah, Greater Healing Potion. The Priest of Feast is going to try to come and save the day, but, I mean, that is not the Reno Jackson that you were looking for. And this Bloodlust is going to wrap it up. Pavel is able to take a crucial Game 1 victory, only 2 games away for qualifying for Summer Championships.
And, Pavel kind of took the spring off, but here he is in true form, it seems, just smashing through his opponents.
Big win in my book. I think Priest is one of the strongest decks when you ban out the Druids, which is almost mutually agreed upon by most players here. Almost every player that has gotten 5-1 or better, I believe every player actually that was 5-1 at the beginning of the day, had Highlander Priest and has been performing very well. So, the Priest dropping a game here could be the X factor for Pavel.
Yeah, and we have seen Shaman kind of struggle throughout the weekend, so getting that through as well is very important.
All right, well, Pavel is currently up 1-0. When we come back, we're going to be back with game number 2 here in this best of 5. Stay tuned. You're watching the Hearthstone Championship Tour Europe Summer Playoffs. Welcome back, everybody, to the Europe Summer Playoffs here in the Hearthstone Championship Tour. You're watching Pavel versus Hunterace, a battle between the #1 and the #8 seed, as well as Russia versus Norway. Pavel, the reigning world champion for 2016, second season for 2017's playoffs, second chance to go to the championship. He's 2 games away after taking a very crucial Shaman versus Priest. Came into 2017 on one of the greatest streaks in Hearthstone history, but after a disappointing loss in the Winter Championship, he took the spring season off. So this is his last chance to have a shot at making it back to the World Championship to defend his title.
Pavel is your 2016 Hearthstone World Champion.
It was such an amazing feelings when I won the World Championship because I worked super hard. I want to qualify back to the World Championship. It's super difficult to win World Championship twice in a row and extremely unlikely, but I think it's definitely possible. I qualified to Winter Championship and went to Bahamas and had a really nice time there. Unfortunately, I didn't qualify for the World Championship.
That is it. Duckpond takes down the world champion.
I didn't care how much attention he got after that match. I'll have another chance in summer playoffs. This is actually my last chance. In this case, I will be the first world champion who qualified twice in a row. If I play well, then I think the chance to qualify will be about 50%. So I'll just work hard for it and I hope it will pay out.
One last chance, and he's looking good so far. Only has to win 2 more games out of this best of 5 against Hunterace, the 16-year-old prodigy from Norway who's been killing it both on ladder and in tournaments. You've been mentioned it on DreamHack, the Hearthstone Global Games. So he's not going to go down without a fight. As we turn to Warlock versus Priest, a matchup that I'm slowly but surely converting more towards what Pavel believes, because at the very beginning I was thinking, man, Warlock has a really tough time, but I've seen him pull out some real nail-biter games.
Yeah, I mean, Pavel clearly very confident, not only in his lineup but in his play. I actually have to go back to that feature. I loved how he said, oh, if I play well, my chances of qualifying are about 50%. And it's like, there's 77 players in this tournament.
Enormous.
Think about half the time I'll make top 4. I mean,
Yeah.
50-50, it happens or it doesn't, you know?
And if you distribute it evenly, assuming players are within a relative skill gap, on the same playing field, that's 1.5%, and he's willing to go 25 times that or more.
You gotta have confidence to be the world champion. You gotta have confidence.
That's right. There's a saying by some of the greatest esports competitors saying that in order to be one of the greatest, you have to be also an idiot. And I believe that kind of mentality, as much as a joke, is also true. You have to have a lot of confidence.
All right, well, in this game, Hunterace does have a little bit of the cycle early on with the Loot Hoarder on turn 2. He did kind of lack that last game. He had some of the situational spells, situational removal effects. Now he is going to potentially be able to churn through his deck a little bit faster. Crucially, the Kazakus as well.
Yeah, he has Kazakus on 4, but as we've seen, that's not even enough a lot of the times. The deck is so predicated on being able to piece together the big combos of Shadow Reaper Anduin and Raza the Unchained, but also being able to have a decent amount of card draw. We've seen even people piece together like Nixlay against Pavel. Even if you have 2 or 3 cards in your hand, as long as you're able to budget the resources, you still can get damage through.
All right, well, speaking of card draw 2 cards is an option, though Mystic Wool also an option.
Yeah.
Hunterace may want to try to have an answer lined up for a potential turn 4 minion from Pavel. Not only does Pavel have Mountain Giants, but also Twilight Drakes, which can cause a lot of trouble for Priest if he doesn't have a removal effect. So Hunterace taking his time with the second thing. I think he may have just quickly taken the Polymorph effect on the first part of the potion. And now heavily debating this one. There is always, with Kazakus Potion, some debate as to, okay, do you want to sort of snap pick things or slow roll things, depending on what information you want to give to your opponent. If you take it quickly, they think, oh, you got the best possible thing. Yeah, he did take draw 2 cards, deal 5 damage, so he is able to line this up with Kazakus to kill this Mountain Giant here.
Yes.
So he decided, I'm going to play the resource battle. I want the card draw to find my other answers to your other threats, because this does allow him to line up with removal thanks to the Kazakus on board.
Yeah, that's huge because it shuts off the Mountain Giant, which consequently denies the Faceless Shambler from snowballing the board out of control. That is one of the primary ways for the Warlock to win. In the game of attrition, too, the Warlock is not going to be able to out-heal the burst damage from the Priest, not to mention that there's also a handful of cards from Warlock that damage themselves. So as great as cards like Abyssal Enforcer is in a vacuum and against most boards, in this matchup, cards like Abyssal Enforcer is a two-edged sword.
Yeah, you are usually, historically playing Warlock against Priest, you could be pretty liberal with your use of effects that damage yourself. There weren't really historically ways for Priest to kill you. It's one of the reasons Jiraxis was sort of the anti-control Priest card for forever. Right. Because, oh, well, you go to 15 life, but there's nothing they can do about it. That's very different. Shadow Reaper Anduin means that every bit of damage matters.
Shadow Reaper Anduin, by the way, was drawn previous turn for Hunterace. Pavel with the second Despicable Dreadlord here. So he's pretty much got all the demons that he wants to res outside the Voidwalkers with the Blood Reaver Gul'dan. And Pavel is going to clear the board and start putting a little pressure onto the Priest's life total here. And we're setting up for the shift to the late game. How does Hunterace navigate his opponent's board? And more importantly, what's his timing for getting Shadow Reaper Anduin down? And can Pavel avoid being swept away with it? One of the big dangers, and last time we've seen Pavel even play against Orange, is if you set up like, Abyssal Enforcer and a Mountain Giant, that just gets blown away, and then your opponent combos you down with Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Yeah, playing against these Priest decks is very often about managing your threats into their answers at particular mana costs. Very often, your opponent is going to want to get Anduin down as quickly as possible in order to advance their own win condition. But if you're able to develop a board that is not destroyed at all by Anduin into that, it can be very effective. Holy Nova is available, or Potion of Madness here, to clear off this board. Potion of Madness plus Priest of the Feast allows him to remove everything as well as heal himself up and envelop. So, very strong turn here for Hunterace, answering everything Pavel has.
The good news is that Priest of the Feast is not super threatening just by the damage, and his life total is good enough. So Pavel able to play as Abyssal Enforcer. Normally in these late stages, if they're able to get the Shadow Reaper Anduin off, Abyssal Enforcer is a little bit sketchy. Hunterace does have it though, perfectly on turn 8. Does not have Raza the Unchained though, so looks like he's at least going to slow down in his combo potential. But this could be the beginning of the end.
Yeah, Pavel does have another Abyssal Enforcer to clear off this Priest of the Feast. Does damage himself, but he has Blood Reaver Gul'dan plus the coin. So he is able to get his Death Knight online next turn,
sure.
Which can, especially because Hunterace does not yet have Raza, can potentially allow him to win the race, especially because it is going to build him a board.
Yeah, and Hunterace doesn't have a very clean way to kill this Abyssal Enforcer off without using, the hero power plus a bunch of combinations, and they'd be pretty inefficient. How does he deal with this then?
I mean, I think Hunterace would love to be able to kill this Abyssal Enforcer and play a Doomsayer this turn to deny at least the res ability of Gul'dan. He could hero power down the Abyssal Enforcer, play Pint-Sized Potion, hero power the Abyssal Enforcer, play Doomsayer. That doesn't actually... Yep. He has enough there, yeah.
That'd be 9
exactly
mana,
enough.
I think.
Just gonna go ahead and remove it with Gluttonous Ooze, or ping it down. He's actually not even removing it, it looks like.
Right. He's because of the mana still costing 2. You can just see the night and day difference of whether or not he's able to kill that and remove and push damage.
And this is actually a little bit interesting because he pinged it twice. Pavel could just coin out Blood Reaver Gul'dan and get it back.
You can also set up Twilight Drakes too. Both of them are definitely a cause, but I think what he cares about is setting up his life total so that he can hero power next turn with playing double Twilight Drake.
Right, and the sooner you get Blood Reaver Gul'dan down, the sooner that you are able to get value every turn out of your hero power, which is especially important when you are potentially racing your opponent's Anduin hero power.
And Hunterace doesn't have that Raza, so he can't even really deal with this board super efficiently because he doesn't have the ability to reach with Pine-Sized Potion, Shadow Horror on everything. So he's going to have to dig a little bit deeper here.
he doesn't have a Dragonfire Potion. He'd love to have that to be able to potentially clear off this board. Thoughtsteel can find him some amount of damage. There's Hellfire and such, but it doesn't really give him enough resources to actually clear the board.
And this is what I'm talking about. You know, again, on paper, I was always thinking the Warlock really has no chance in this matchup because it's always because the Priest can, assuming they can remove most stuff, will be able to get that damage out. But you know, Pavel's putting up quite the fight here.
He's able to clear off most of the board here and even steal a bit of it.
Very cute. I like actually that play there. Being able to use Pint-Sized Potion for a double whammy of Cabal, Shadow Priest, and Shadow Word Pain. Shadow Word Horror gets a lot worse from this point on, but I think you gotta start making adjustments because it's very clear that you're falling too far behind.
Yeah, and now the Twilight Drakes, crucially immune to the
Dragonfire
Potion.
Potion.
And now that Hunterace has used Pint-Sized Potion, they cannot be Shadow Word Horde either.
Ooh,
so
that's right.
these are suddenly a much bigger threat. If Pavel had developed these before the use of the Pint-Sized Potion, there's the risk that they just get killed. Now they're immune to almost all of the removal that Hunterace has left in his deck.
So right, Kibler, and that's probably exactly what Pavel was thinking about. And because of the way he sequenced his threats and presented the tempo against Hunterace, now these Twilight Drakes are much more threatening and could carry him to the victory.
Yeah,
Hunterace has to go fishing.
Yeah, he's got to see what Pavel has to kill these things.
But what does he even want? If he gets like a Siphon Soul, is that enough to stabilize him?
It doesn't stabilize just yet. I mean, especially considering, ooh, Defile. Are there crazy Defile tricks with this hero power? He even has Defile and Spirit Lash. My brain hurts trying to figure out what can happen this turn now.
I want to say yes, because he can use the 2 damage from the Void Spike to set up a Defile, but it won't. I don't know if it'll kill everything. It'll kill off most of the board. So if you use Void Spike here and Defile, you at least guarantee kill off 2 of his threats. And you know what? The Void Walker is helpful. Gains you 4 life for 1 mana. And there you go. Hunterace able to identify it with a couple of seconds left on the timer here. Pavel's not going to slow down any second, though. He's going to keep putting out 4/5s onto his opponent here. Unless he doesn't want to extend too far onto the board. I think what he's considering right now is if he wants to get value off of things like his Faceless Shambler or kind of hold on to it.
He's thinking about deploying the Gluttonous Ooze here.
Yeah.
I think the thought process here may be that he wants to have the Despicable Dreadlord plus Faceless Shambler as a follow-up after this board gets cleared, perhaps by a Dragonfire Potion for most of it. Ooh, there's Raza.
Oof.
So that can potentially give Hunterace some serious oomph with this hero power. There's also Potion of Madness for the Tainted Zealot and a Spirit Lash. So
Wow.
Potion of Madness taking Tainted Zealot plus Spirit Lash will gain back Hunterace a lot of life, as well as do a bunch of damage to all these minions.
That Raza may have come just in the nick of time, because before that, I feel like Pavel was pretty clearly in the lead here and ready to end the game. But now with Raza being drawn, that gives Hunterace some strong possibilities for a comeback here. Unless he's not going to play Raza.
He wanted to play it after the...
He didn't want to take any damage on
after
it.
taking damage, right. So this, he has really managed to shut down pretty much all of Pavel's offense here.
Yeah, but he doesn't have
there is that
that
reload.
much card draw. And Pavel's at 31 life. So Hunterace needs to draw card generation at this point. That's where things like Crystalline Oracle, even Stonehill Defender makes their way in these deck lists.
Lyra
There
can
you
generate
go.
some cards, but Lyra, he has only a couple of 4-cost cards in his hand. So he could play Lyra in 1 spell, which would doom his Lyra to getting killed the next turn. He could kill one of the minions unless he picked up a 1-cost spell. There's at least some incentive, I think, for Hunterace to want to just hold back on this Lyra.
You're at 30 health. You have Greater Healing Potion. It feels like you do have some leeway to play with here. Not that much, because the damage sneaks up on you really fast with 3 damage every turn from Warlock.
Yeah, it's going to take it slow.
I like this hold. I like this hold.
It really is very interesting that Greater Healing Potion has become one of the most important cards in controlled mirrors, because there's so much about burning your opponent out with hero powers.
Radiant Elemental comes into the hand, and that's a big combination as well, but Hunterace, again, will have to commit all of his mana onto something without a lot of cheap spells.
Yeah, I think he's still looking, because he has the Greater Healing Potion, I think he's still looking to just take it slow, find another cheap spell, give himself the ability to really reload with that Lyra. Yeah, here the Doomsayer is going to buy him some more time.
Yep.
He does have a lot of a window to keep himself alive thanks to the big heal in his hand. Spellbreaker, though, gonna at least neutralize the Doomsayer here for Pavel.
Yeah, it's a big question is, does Pavel want to save the Spellbreaker as soft removal, or does he want to use it for actual ways to fight for tempo here against Hunterace?
All right, Silence. That can give Hunterace now multiple spells that he can cast. He's going to get full value off of the Greater Healing Potion. He gets multiple triggers from the Anduin Reset. I think he might be starting to think it's go time.
He has 5 triggers he can use guaranteed with the hero power, which clears off at least a 4/3 and a 3/3. And then your opponent just uses Silence. He hasn't used a Siphon Soul yet, but at least you also generate 2 more cards so that you can get more damage out. So I feel like this is the opportune time.
Yeah, maybe not. Looks like Hunterace is going to continue to take it. One big concern for Hunterace here, though, is that he needs to be able to win the game. He needs to generate enough resources that he can actually kill Pavel, and Pavel's at 35.
I mean, he's just being greedy. And maybe Hunterace sees the lines. He can see that he could play with death, almost going on the verge of losing the game here, because Pavel has used his Abyssal Enforcers, and Hunterace knows the kind of burst that's capable in his deck. Hellfires is pretty much the only thing he's considering. There's no Doom Guards or any other tricky shenanigans that he has to worry about. So unless Pavel can actually potentially lethal him, Hunterace is going to play on the verge of death here. And I think this is the turn he has to kind of go for.
Look at this motley beatdown crew that Pavel has. He's like, all right, I got a 1/1 Divine Shield, a 3/3 Faceless Shambler.
Yeah, it's like the saddest Corpse Taker of all time when it just gets taunt and nothing else.
All right,
Here we
it
go.
is now time.
He can guarantee remove everything onto the board, which I think he's going to at least aim for.
I mean, Silence just kills the Faceless Shambler. Puts it at 1/1.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, the Silence on it actually does like 2 damage to it.
Yeah. Picks up a Dragonfire Potion, not necessarily what he's looking for here, but it does give him a little bit of insurance against future minions from Pavel. There's not many minions left in Pavel's deck, frankly.
Race of Darkness, kind of a dud here.
Right now, Pavel picks up a Siphon Soul.
Yeah.
He did have a clear. He does have a clear with the File.
Yes.
Or at least a kill on the Lyra with the File if he wants it. Oh, actually, it's a full clear. Never mind, there's a 1/1 in play.
Yep.
Durf.
And that way he can save Siphon Soul
Right.
for a bigger threat from Hunterace. I'm trying to look at the rest of his deck list. There's not much big minion threat that can come out.
One thing, crucially, Hunterace does not have that Prophet Velen in his deck. So his ability to burst with this hero power is just 2 per card. So Pavel has 3 life gain per turn. So Hunterace needs to really save up and really blow Pavel up.
Yeah.
Or else Pavel's just going to keep hero power you. I can just ignore everything you have because I'm just chomping away and healing myself up.
And Pavel's also going to try to not give Hunterace targets to use. Kibble, you actually tell the story very often that you lost a game one time as a paladin by hero powering and allowing Priest to Potion of Madness and do a bunch of combos with Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Yeah, there's lots of cards that the Priest can have in their hand. I mean, one of them is Shadow Word Death that Hunterace does have in his hand. That unless Pavel gives him a target for it, he can't even cast to get the trigger to reset his hero power. So those can just be stranded.
Pavel wants to put that clock onto Priest, realizing that Greater Healing Potion has been used. He only has Holy Nova. Does end up deciding to use Mortal Coil. I don't think Fatigue will be the issue here. Plays a Doomsayer to just try to prevent Hunterace from developing any tempo to threaten his life total. But Hunterace doesn't have much substance left. I'm looking at the top end of his deck, and I think almost all his minions are gone.
And he only has 3 cards left, too. He doesn't have that much time. Every turn that goes by is frankly better for Pavel because he has the better hero power. He's just padding his life total and damaging Hunterace. Hunterace needs to have a lot of damage in a single turn to close this out. I don't think he can do it.
Yes, it's a 2 versus 6 damage swing every turn because what Shadow Reaper Anduin's doing is only doing 2 damage. I guess 4 if he's playing a single card. Pavel's gaining 3 while dealing 3, so that 6 swing matters so much when it comes down to fatigue. Again, Hunterace has no actual substance to do repetitive damage. It's all machine gun Anduin at this point, but he's almost out of ammo.
Yeah, and we talked about how the inclusion of Prophet Villain in Pavel's version of this deck gives him so much more reach in this kind of situation. It gives him the ability to burst for so much more damage in a single turn because you can save up those cheap spells, and every time they're 4 all of a sudden, rather than just the 2. And yeah, Hunterace, he's trying to use his mana here. He's got expensive spells, can't really save them up for a single turn. And Pavel's just chomping away. 3.
I'm super impressed with how Pavel was able to navigate this matchup. This matchup is super hard on paper because of what the Priest is able to do. And Hunterace, it's not like he didn't get even his combo piece together. He actually did at one point.
It's true.
With a lot of his deck
What
remaining.
could Glimmerroot get?
But what demons does it summon back?
It doesn't summon any, but it gives him the same hero power.
I guess.
Gives him 5 armor.
It equalizes the health gain, but he's also on fatigue at that point.
It's true. It's true.
He needs something big.
It's just really funny.
A big dude.
Siphon Soul. All right, he can siphon the Doomsayer, gains a little life for himself, gets another shot. It's not going to be enough, though. Hunterace needs something big, and there's nothing big left in his deck.
I don't even know if there's any minions left at this point. He's used so much all of his minions. It feels like he only has spells.
Darkness speaks to
He hasn't played Thoughtsteal, has he?
He has. He played Thoughtsteal, and he didn't really get anything substantial of it.
the shadows grow short.
It's one of those times where you think, man, why didn't I put Devour Mind in my deck so I can be even greedier?
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons that you see Elise in a lot of these decks, too, I feel like. And Hunterace does not have it. Hunterace is just doing the churn.
Right.
Yeah, just the Doomsayer there. Hunterace cannot win this game. He doesn't have enough juice.
Right.
Almost out of cards.
And Pavel can just play the removal game. Hunterace concedes, and Pavel wins yet another unfavorable matchup, playing to his outs, playing with the right lines, and now is 1 game away from making a repeat appearance in a 2017 championship.
And it was just so clear that Pavel understood exactly how that game was going to play out. He knew that once he got Gul'dan in play, and given the amount of resources that Hunterace exhausted, the game was just over. He could just sit back, keep hero powering face, and eventually he would just exhaust all the cards that Hunterace had and his life total.
Right, and the way he was able to fluidly shift back and forth by presenting threats and also playing very reactive defensive, immaculate play from our reigning world champion. He's up 2-0, and when we come back, we'll find out if he can sweep the 16-year-old prodigy from Norway. Stay tuned.
Hearthstone Championship Tour is heading to Southern California for the Summer Championship. Los Angeles will host 16 worthy qualifiers from the playoffs. They'll be competing for the title of Summer Champion plus a spot at the World Championships. It's Hearthstone in La La Land, October 13th through 15th in Los Angeles.
Save the day, October 13th through 15th. We're going to celebrate the Summer Championship with the sunny side of California. And join us, and we'll find out who will be coming along, as Pavel is one game away from sweeping Hunterace. Despite having a couple of rough matchups, I think everything is downhill from here for Pavel.
Yeah, this is the Priest mirror he's going to be playing in here, and frankly, I think Pavel's version is better in the mirror match. A lot of that comes down to the Prophet Velen inclusion that we talked about a number of times previously in the series. That Prophet Velen allows him to catch up when he's behind or just close the door if he's ahead.
Certainly, and as long as they both have reasonable and equal draw, Pavel is favored on paper. Hunterace has had middling draws. He had some things that are very good, like Kazakus on 4 every game, but he hasn't had the true God curve that we always talk about, having Kazakus on 4, Raza the Unchained on 5, and Shadow Reader Anduin into question mark, and then you win the game. And so Hunterace probably needs to get a little bit fortunate here in order to get ahead of Pavel.
Hunterace does have a pretty solid draw here, though. The Lyra in his hand is a very key card in this matchup. He could just use the Silence here if he wants to eliminate the card draw from Pavel's Acolyte of Pain as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, denying card draw is huge. The Silence does a lot more than just deny the card draw here, but it kind of stops Pavel from potentially drawing into his Raza the Unchained and Shadow Reaper, which may in turn give him the tempo to allow him to play very aggressively. It's all a chain reaction.
Yeah, this matchup, or this deck period, is really about finding the specific cogs in the wheel. It's all about getting all the pieces together. And yeah, we see Hunterace decide, okay, I recognize the card draw from this Acolyte, potentially even more than a single card, could give Pavel those tools, and he wants to stop it right away. There's that Prophet Velen, not really the card you're looking for right now,
right.
But does mean that Pavel has it in his back pocket if he does fall behind and ultimately need that burst later on.
Yeah, not having that card draw is really big, and you can see already Pavel not happy with the result of that, but that's why you got to adapt. And by playing Loot Hoarder, he has to actually contemplate whether or not he wants to trade away this Acolyte because it becomes vulnerable to Potion of Madness.
He is actually going to heal his Acolyte, and now Hunterace is going to not only shut down the draw, but take it for himself.
Yes, so a 3-card swing for Hunterace, and in a slower defensive controlling matchup, that often determines the game straight up. We talk about Manatide Totem, we talk about Northshire Cleric, some of these usual card engines that often can win games by themselves because of the way things have lined up and Pavel playing a little bit into it and also not avoiding it. Hunterace is vastly ahead right now of his opponent.
Yeah, I mean, he has the Lyra in his hand. Pavel's already used Shadow Word Pain on the early Northshire Cleric, and he's already picked up Anduin. This game is looking very much in Hunterace's favor already. You usually think of control matchups as these long, drawn-out affairs where you're jockeying back and forth for position. This one ends up being very much different because of the nature of the win condition of the deck is burn you out. So if you assemble your combination of cards earlier than your opponent, generally you have a huge advantage.
It's not unwinnable, but it's going to be very tough from this position. And Hunterace is doing all the calculations to make sure that he's not going to throw away an unnecessary card here because he's so up in card advantage that one of the ways he can lose is if he's playing extremely inefficiently, and Pavel's able to 2-for-1 very often and catch up in the card count that way.
I wonder if Hunterace just sacrifices Loot Hoarder in part because he's like, I just Potion of Madness you. I don't want you to Potion of Madness me.
That's probably in the back of his mind.
It's like, oh, yeah.
It could be.
Yeah, I mean, he then traded into killed the minion, although he then did just play a Blood Mage Thanos, so.
Maybe Pavel would have already used Potion of Madness if he had
Well, last turn if he had it, he could have used it. Though there is a Shadow Visions that could find a Potion of Madness.
And there it is.
And there it is, yep. So, played around it, played back into it, got potioned.
Fun fact for all of you people at home on the fence of whether or not you want to craft Highlander Priest. Pavel is 7-0, and Highlander Priest is one of the highest win rate decks in this tournament. Pro's been saying it, Cash has been saying it, the data's been saying it. Priest is good, and it is legit. It's not a flash in the pan, maybe first week meta type thing. This deck is solid.
Hunter's going digging with Shadow Vision's finds Thought Steal. So yeah, we talked about how this is very much about resource generation. Finds a Radiant Elemental to go with his Lyra.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of good hits you could have gotten. He could have got his opponent's Raza and then figured it out for him. But there you go. And Hunterace has the easy counter of Shadow Word Death or the Anduin and the
there's
Raza
Raza.
draw.
Oh my.
Yeah, we see the writing on the wall here, but it's just going to take a few turns for Pavel to find out what Hunterace has in his hand, which is literally everything.
Yeah, I mean, here he just gets to coin out Shadow Reaper Anduin, kill his opponent's 7-drop, and then start going to town with everything he could possibly dream of next turn.
The light has betrayed me.
The light has betrayed you, Prophet Velen. It's over.
Very ominous. Pavel has nothing he can do. Hunterace gets free tempo and hero powers for the remainder of the game here with the Raza the Unchained. Absolutely devastating. No way for real Pavel to come back here from what I see in his hand.
I mean, he can remove minions. He does have tools to get rid of this Raza. Yeah, he recognizes, all right, this is just over. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my mental energy. We're just going to go on to the next game.
Yeah, and sometimes that just happens, and especially in mirror matches when it's so predicated on having a specific string of cards combining together for that effect. That deck is extremely crucial, and if you guys need an example, just look at all the games where the Priest didn't draw Raza or Shadow Reaper Anduin, and as a result had to play very awkwardly for the most part of the game, and as a result not able to generate the value they needed to win.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that is just sort of a heads-up call from Pavel, recognizing that he just needs to win one more game. Not going to waste time with a game that is not winnable.
Right, and you know, I guess there's two sides of it. One is he saves his own strengths, but two, you know, he kind of gets, he kind of like puts himself in the, what's the best way to phrase it? I think he denies his opponent the ability to try and put more mental pressure on himself.
Sure.
Because a lot of times when you're falling behind, you just kind of get stuck in this negative attitude of just like, oh my goodness, he has everything. I can't win. How am I supposed to win? How did he get so lucky? How did I get so unlucky? And that kind of snowballs into an actual negative mindset and tilts you.
Well, he also doesn't give Hunterace any satisfaction of sitting in an enormously winning position for any length of time at all. So he's like, haha, I've got this. Lyra, this. No, just, okay, you win. Fine.
Yeah, kind of halt the momentum. I like it. And some people also say that for sportsmanship, you should play it out, even if you have like a 1% chance. But I think it was even lower than that, at that point of the game, because usually from those games, it's a surefire thing for Hunterace to take that win. Hunterace does have 2 other decks remaining here in order to climb back, so potential comeback can be made here against Pavel, and we've seen 2-0 leads evaporate as fast as they begun. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to find out whether or not Hunterace can complete the reverse sweep on Pavel, or will he be able to end it 3-1. Quarterfinal number 2 is being prepared, by the way, for all the HCT fans wanting to see new blood. We've got plenty. Old boy, his first Hearthstone Championship Tour playoffs. He's already in the top 8. He's going up against Denim Blue, who's been here 5 out of 6 times. Never been able to make that final push, as he is hailing from Germany. I also want to give a big shout out that he's also a person that helps host fireside gatherings, which is really cool that he's not only just a competitor, but he's also a community member as well.
Yeah, always good to see many of the competitive players giving back to the community.
Absolutely, and I know there's a lot of passionate Hearthstone fans around the taverns, as we're spanning dozens of countries for Europe, and we'll continue to do so for Asia Pacific as well as Americas. Lots to look forward to as well. Players have requested a miniature break, which is why we are coming back and wait for them to come back. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and just talk about what we've seen so far from the series. Hunterace still has 2 more decks remaining in his Control Mage and Control Paladin, and those 2 decks have big question marks over their heads, even so much so where players on social media who brought Mage and Control Paladin to this tournament say, I regret it. I wish I didn't play this. I wish I played like a Control Warrior or something else.
Yeah, we've seen Control Paladin in particular struggle a lot on camera, and in particular against the Priest deck.
Yes.
It just almost looks embarrassing for the Paladins, as they're just kind of trying to put together this anemic offense that does nothing against what the Priest is able to do. Mage, I think, may have a bit more of a shot. You still have the ability to potentially, burst your opponent out, Alex Straza them. You have Antonitis, build some fireballs. You do have also just the Mana Worm Mage draws that can beat people up. But I do not have high hopes for Hunterace's ability to win with Paladin.
Yeah, I think Paladin just, like you said, isn't actually able to launch an offensive attack to really threaten. What they usually do is win wars of attrition by just removing, having maybe 1 threat finally stick because their opponent can't deal with it enough, and then ensure that they don't die by healing. But the Priest can outlast that. They don't even have to go for the burn plan. It's just the Control Paladin won't have enough cards to actually win the game.
Yeah, generally speaking, Control Paladin wins by killing your opponent's stuff. It's like, okay, I'm going to kill that, kill that. You can't kill a Death Knight. You can't remove that hero power, and eventually it's going to wear you down, and you're going to lose.
What is dead is may never die at that point. So I think the Death Knights have proven their strength. One thing that we do want to point out, which I thought was a cool observation, is that for at least the entire playoff scene for Europe, every single Death Knight actually saw some play, which was really cool. I didn't really expect to see a lot of competitive Rexar, or I didn't really expect to see too much Valera just because of the Rogue class in general. But they even also made some appearances too in decks.
I think Casey was the representative who had every death, like every one of his deaths had a Death Knight, I think. Yeah, I think he might have been one of the very few Valeras in the tournament.
I mean, Casey in general is a really cool deck builder to watch, and definitely want to give nods to him, as he played a pivotal role in some of these players' journey to the top 8. And of course, we've seen Blood Reaver Gul'dan be a Death Knight of utmost importance for Pavel, as he is currently sitting at a 2-1 lead, ready to go. Now, what's really important to know is that Pavel still has, he has to play his Priest as well, which is his best deck in my opinion, and he has 2 more chances to get a win. We're going to go to Mage versus Priest, a matchup that definitely seems winnable, but it's going to be hard because the Priest has so many good tools to really shut down Mage's game plan here.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup because the core game plan for each of these decks is about killing your opponent's stuff and surviving, and the other player doesn't really have that much stuff to kill in both instances. Hunterace generally looking to control the board with freeze effects, doomsayers, and removal spells. Well, Pavel, he's not really going to be playing too much out that doesn't just draw him cards and get him to that late game win condition.
Yep, I'm looking for any specific interactions that might help swing it for Pavel. So one of them could be big is the Gluttonous Susan hand versus the Medivh in Hunterace's deck. Medivh the Guardian is an extremely valuable value card. You can set up big tempo swings with Firelance Portals, for example, or Flame Strike, summon a 7-cost minion, clear your opponent's board. That might not be the case since Pavel has that Gluttonous Ooze and is well aware that's what going to be Hunterace looking for.
Glibberroot just so excited. Oh, Antonitis out of the deck. We see a immediate Glibberroot. It doesn't even get time to come off the top of the deck. Really? Just hanging over the top of the board. Finds Antonitis. Jeez. Pavel's playing a deck that has tons of cheap spells to fuel his own Anduin. That's even more spells he can get in terms of fireballs.
That's right. We're talking about how most priests outfit their decks to just generate extra cards. That is one of the best card generators in the game.
It's a really funny targeting effect. The flying guy.
Aim is a little off, but we'll let it slide
He got
for this
him.
one.
He got him.
Yeah, got the kill. Hunterace also had a choice of a couple secrets in Shatter, choosing the Shatter because he has a couple of freeze effects there. That's something that stuck out to me immediately because usually Shatter is often mocked as one of the worst cards you can get.
It is, and I think that Hunterace would love to get some sort of resource generation with the second glyph he just picked up. Perhaps Arcane Intellect or Cabal's Tome. Generally, when you're playing Mage against another control deck, that's most of what you want to do, is churn through your own deck with your card draw. Fireland's Portal, though, being able to generate threat along with Burn is one of the next best options.
One of the best options, but I think you hit upon something very core, is that there's not a lot of draw here for Hunterace, which will eventually just make him stuck hero powering or removing and passing.
Ugh. This is one of the ugliest Cabal couriers that I've ever seen.
I mean, what's really funny is the Ice Walker actually does work with the Priest hero power. There's not many interactions where it does work with it. For example, I don't think it works with like Hunter per se.
Yeah.
But Priest actually can heal his own minions and freeze it with Ice Walker.
Or heal your opponent's minions.
Or heal your
and freeze
opponent's
them.
minions and freeze it.
Pavel does end up taking the Inner Fire. He has lots of things that synergize with cheap spells, so that can go alongside either the Archmage Antonidas or the Lyra or his Anduin later on.
Jeez. Game's not over by any means. Pavel has a lot of good things going. By all means, his hand looks the flashiest that we've seen it in a long time. He's got a lot of cool combos, a lot of high value generation cards, infinite resources, so to speak, behind Antonidas and Lyra. And Hunterace has limited cards. But we've seen Mage squeeze out wins by stalling just enough, Priest not being able to land the heals. Lyra can whiff sometimes, just hit big, heavy costed spells that don't do anything, and Hunterace can burn his opponent for a victory.
Hunterace played one of the most incredible games of Mage that I saw all weekend, where he simulacrumed his Alexstrasza that he got off a Primordial Glyph,
cool.
and ended up, using it to heal himself and hit his opponent. It was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Hunterace recognizes that he might need every single ounce of value out of his cards, so he's not even going to play Arcanologist. A lot of mages sometimes get that draw out of the way, but choosing to play the Doomsayer and try to complicate Pavel's turn 6, which he just goes ahead and plays the Song Stealer, lines up really well with the Fireland's Portal.
Tar Creeper, 4-attack minion sometimes.
Yeah.
Not the most exciting on the offense, though.
It really isn't, especially if you're able to get 2 fireballs guaranteed off the Antonidas.
Even gets the Inner Fire at 7/7 Antonidas.
Add 2 fireballs to your hand, which, by the way, was given because of the Curious Glimmer route, so it's essentially for free. And Hunterace would have to remove it pretty inefficiently by using
Got that Shatter. I mean,
yeah, but he has to use something else.
Right,
with it.
Frost Nova doesn't have a ton of application in this matchup, nor does Blizzard in many cases. So he's getting rid of a card that's generally fairly weak anyway, in order to pair with the Shatter. But yeah, it's certainly not the position you want to be in as Hunterace here. But you just look at the player's hands. This is a control matchup that does care a significant amount about resources, and Pavel has just so many more than Hunterace at this point. Pavel rather even has the Prophet Velen he could possibly pair with those fireballs at some point.
Pavel going for a pine-sized Cabal Shadow Priest, and that's going to steal the Tar Lurker and help put some pressure back on his side of the board. That does free up the Acolyte of Pain to feel like he can be to be able to draw an extra card here. Pavel has used a Silence and has used a Cabal Shadow Priest. And here we finally go. The card draw is coming together. Hunterace has Alexstrasza and Ice Blocks. So the Mage game plan is starting to piece together, even though Pavel had a very flashy opening.
It is, though Pavel just picked up a Greater Healing Potion. He has Priest of the Feast in his hand, so the chances of getting burned down after Alexstrasza are relatively low. Plus the fact that he does have this substantial board presence already as well.
Well, now that I look at Pavel's hand, it's not exactly the clearest play of what he'd like to do. Normally when you want to have Lyra, you want to have a lot of cheap spells, but he's got kind of expensive spells. He's fireballing an Acolyte of Pain.
When he gets a Thought Steal, so
He gets a
even
Thought Steal.
more resource generation. And this puts Hunterace in a position where he needs to spend resources to remove Lyra this turn to prevent Pavel from getting even more cards.
Right. Oh, Hunterace doesn't have the secret anymore for the Medivh Valet, but he did pick up the Fireland's Portal, so that is a way he can get that 5 damage very cleanly, and use a big portion of his mana. Would love to see him get some of that ice block action up as well, because that's so crucial for how he ends up being in a position to set up a good Alexstrasza play, or even use Medivh as well. Or Medivh's Valet, excuse me.
Yeah. Fundamentally, Hunterace, I think, needs to try to deal with this board so he can get a clear turn to try and set up Alexstrasza. But he doesn't really even have the burn to back up the Alexstrasza either. Alexstrasza has lost a lot of potency in the matchup against Priest, now that the sort of Mage win condition has to happen over multiple turns rather than having the sort of Ice Lance burst of Days of Yore. Even just Anduin. Your opponent Alexstrasza's you, if you just Anduin, you're gaining armor and killing their Alexstrasza in a single card. Leads to really awkward situations for the Mage sometimes.
Hunterace is going to part ways with more burn. I think he's identifying exactly what you're saying. I need to play the long game. I can't win through just a 2-turn cheese, essentially, over my opponent. Try to pull a fast one on him. Priest has so much healing available to them, and I could just lose if I throw my Alexstrasza too early.
And just look at Pavel. He's got this Thought Steal off the Lyra, even more resources, making it even harder for Hunterace to win that long game. And he has so much healing in reserve. You know, if Hunterace really does need to win this game via damage too. If you just look at the size of the decks, there's 12 cards left in Hunterace's deck, 16 cards in Pavel. If they did go to fatigue, Hunterace is incredibly far behind. Pavel has the healing to line up against pretty much all the burn Hunterace can muster, as well as removal for his minions. I think Pavel can just take this incredibly slowly, just kill everything, heal everything Hunterace does, and it'll just line up perfectly.
Yeah, just kind of play control paladin, essentially. Just wait for your opponent to just run out of stuff and let the damage go through the ice blocks on fatigue, if that's an option. Hunterace going to target that Priest of the Feast gladly, considering that it's one of the big threats to stop his Alexstrasza push.
I'm actually a little surprised to see Pavel commit the Priest of the Feast there, just as a proactive minion, considering how it is so powerful against the longer game burn plan of the Mage deck.
I mean, he has so many cards. He had 10 cards. He needed to dump something. Acolyte of Plane is also kind of weird because it helps draw more cards. I guess he could have part ways with Frost Nova, but that's a cheaper spell, relatively speaking. I'm trying to justify it in my mind, but I'm kind of on your side now that you mentioned it. It also could be because he has greater healing potions,
It's
so he
true.
feels fine.
He does still have a great deal of resilience to burn, even if he does't have the Priest of the Feast. However, you just have so much sort of backup plan against your opponent ever being able to burn you out if you have Priest of the Feast with any number of cheap spells.
Sure.
Well, there's Antonius for Hunterace.
Yeah, he's assembled a lot of his key cards to be able to generate damage here. And Alexstrasza finally comes down. Hunterace realizing this is the push that he needs to win the game.
I think Hunterace here, he's trying to bait a Shadow Word Death. He's trying to get Pavel to commit a removal spell that can kill Antonius so that he can play Antonius Frost Nova next turn. Because if Pavel uses Shadow Word Death here and is reliant on minions to kill Antonius, then he'd be able to stick Antonius for multiple turns, get a bunch of fireballs. That won't end up working out for him. Pavel does, at bare minimum, have Fireball plus the Spirit Lash to kill the Antonius, but that's ultimately Hunterace's goal with this particular play.
Well, once upon a time, Pavel was at 15 health. And now all of a sudden, he's back to virtually full. Greater Healing Potion really come into play here, and Hunterace does pick up more follow-up burn. But it's like you said, he was trying to see if he can go for this Archmage Antonius Hail Mary play, but with that Frost Nova and Antonius, if Pavel had a single extra point of damage in any capacity,
yeah, he knows it's a fireball.
then he knows that the Antonius is gone and his game plan crumbles.
I wouldn't even be surprised to see Hunterace attack his Medivh's Valet into the Tar Creeper to prevent Potion of Madness from being a possible tool.
That's really cute. I like that. That would be pretty next level. He does it. 200 IQ, Kibler. This kid is super sharp right now.
Yeah, and this is recognizing, okay, this is my way to win. I have to have this Antonius survive. It's my only road to victory, and this is one of the possible ways that he knows Pavel can combine with that fireball in his hand to get rid of it. Unfortunately for him, Pavel does have the Spirit Lash, but Hunterace recognizes what can go wrong and tries to play around it.
I mean, Pavel knows that he can take it out. Just thinking about what is the proper way he wants to go about it. He has a second Acolyte of Pain to draw additional cards. Pavel doesn't want to overdraw at this point. So you can Fireball, and that leaves him enough room to play Kazakus and get a potion.
And Kazakusing for armor in this matchup is often extremely valuable as well. Leaves you in a position where your opponent is even further lacking in burn to actually kill you.
Sure. Pavel sequencing to the draw first.
He's just making him sweat the Fireball right now.
Yeah.
Just crushing his spirit.
And I mean, he's being very meticulous about how he dissects his opponent's threats because he's trying to account for everything. How much burn can I take? He has an extra Fireball. Medivh finally comes to the hand, but Pavel's got the answer for that too. He's got the Gluttonous Ooze.
And he had that Gluttonous Ooze in his opening hand. There were any number of opportunities he could have played it to potentially just have a threat on the board. And he's just patiently kept it for the Atiesh. He knows this is one of the very few ways he can lose, and he's prepared for that.
Poor Hunterace. Every single avenue that he's tried to flank Pavel for has been shut down. Alexstrasza approach, Antonidas approach, the Medivh the Guardian approach, and all the threats will be removed as well because Dragonfire Potion exists. This is lights out.
He even keeps his Tar Lurker that he stole from Hunterace.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking like, man, do you really need that Tar Lurker? But it's actually saved him a handful of
It
life.
really has.
Yeah. And what can Hunterace do? He's got 22 damage just from the Fireballs and Pyroblast, but his opponent's got 31 health with guaranteed healing two every turn. I don't think he's going to be able to make up this difference. He's going to try anyways. Pyroblast to the face. And Pavel's nodding because he recognizes that is a form of desperation from his opponent.
Yeah, and now Prophet Velen can come down, just heal himself up even more. Hunterace just does not have enough damage in his deck. All of his big threats are gone. Pavel can just take this slow and grind him right out.
He's got to remove that Prophet Valen. It works so much against what his deck is trying to do, but by using Fireball, he's also getting that much further away. Blizzard, Doomsayer. Pray your opponent doesn't have any removal. Pavel's got him covered twice over with potential for more.
Yeah, this is really just desperation from Hunterace. Even if this Prophet Velen did die, I don't think he's enough damage to win the game.
Pavel plays his Kazakus Potion, just going to try to look for ways to close out this series.
12 damage to all minions.
Why not meteor everything? Turns out the meteor from Ungoro missed and hit literally the planet.
Yeah, he just took gain 10 armor, freeze 3 enemy minions. Doesn't matter what that other mode
Look
is.
look at me. I'm the freeze nation.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is very sad to see for all Hunterace fans around, as Arcanologist is just not going to do anything. Hunterace has no actual recourse to win. Usually you're able to find alternative methods for victory, but every single avenue they look for, the fast Alexstrasza, the Antonidas infinite fireballs, the Medivh the Guardian value, all of that was shut down by Pavel's answers, and Pavel was able to match at a perfect pace too, because he's not too far into his deck. So even if it went to fatigue stages, he has a distinct advantage if they went even.
I mean, this game just feels so much like the Priest versus Warlock game. Pavel just recognizing at every step, this is what you can do to deal with my threats, this is what you can do to threaten me, and every time he has the right answer.
Absolute defense. Hunterace, I think right now is searching for the line that he can see. What's remaining in his deck?
And that's it.
That's a concession. Pavel is joining us for the Summer Championships for the second time in 2017.
Yeah, Pavel has qualified for the seasonal championship every time he's competed in the playoffs.
Wow. With the 19-3 score, Pavel is setting new heights and new records in Hearthstone yet again.
I mean, he was a world champion 2016. Now he's going to Los Angeles for the Summer Championship.
Where are the haters now?
Seriously.
Pavel can't hear him because he's on a cruise right now to Los Angeles. Well, not literally right now, but metaphorically speaking. Pavel will be joining us in Los Angeles for the Hearthstone Championship Tour Summer Champs. Couldn't be happier for the guy. He's put so much work into the summer season. A lot of people were doubting him. They were saying, hey, He didn't do anything for spring. He didn't even qualify. I knew that he was going to eventually slow down. Not at all. He just needed a little brief break, and now he's back.
It's just crazy to think about. Just the incredible consistency that Pavel has had. People talked about how, oh, well, he won a tournament right after BlizzCon. Okay, maybe he got lucky again. Then he won the winter chip or the winter playoffs for Europe, and now he just took time off from spring, and here he is once again, #1 seed, 8-0 so far this tournament. It's just absolutely incredible.
So it turns out if you are